So what was the most memorable ride you've had?
Wow, let me see. I remember one time it was winter because we would work year round. It was winter. And, you know, in the winter, you know that if you're leaving the house, you're very lucky to get one ride. So if you get one ride, you take it no matter what the price is. It was winter and I, I, I hadn't had a ride for at least 4 hours or so. And so I eventually got around to 72nd Street. I found 3 Italian guys, and they wanted to cross over. And, you know, they were like, oh, can you take us? I was like, yeah, sure. So I put the 3 Italian men on my bike, and, you know, I took them over. And, you know, it was cold, and it was quite an interesting day. But so then we did the tour, and when I brought them to where they wanted to be, these men, whilst we were doing the tour, they were speaking in Italian. I couldn't understand what they were saying. So when the tour ended, these men were, you know, amazed that we took that route. So they were like, oh, you know, whatever they were saying, you know how Italians are, thank you so much. This is amazing, New York City. Wow, you're only a woman can do, you know, the whole thing. And they gave me a really, really good tip.
Okay.
So that just, it was one of those things that just made me feel good because I was appreciated for my work. And of course, also just having the opportunity to show people the city and from a different angle, you know, from a pedicab, like one wouldn't think you're coming to New York City to ride in a pedicab,
No.
but it's something that's part of the culture of the city. You know, it's something that in New York, you find everything here. You know, and so one of the comments that the guys made was like, oh, wow, it's like, only in New York, a lady driving us, you know. So that was just sort of the whole New York culture thing that somebody from the outside could recognize it, and it's just something that I think I always carry with me.
So what was the reaction of your male counterparts? Did they welcome you to the club or?
Well, in the beginning, it was a joke to them.
Okay.
You know, they see this little girl like, oh, come on, what is she trying to do? You know, but after they saw me giving tours, they're like, wow, you know, good job, good job. And then as it went along, you know, there's a code in the pedicab, so you kind of know what to do, what not to do. But I think that the guys started having a soft spot for me, so they let me kind of break the rules, you know, getting the good customers and, you know, here and there. But in the end, they were very supportive. As a matter of fact, we were like one big family. We became one big family because everybody was riding towards their dreams, you know, whatever that was. Some people were trying to pay for college, some people, you know, were trying to just pay for rent, whatever it was. It's like that was, at the end of the day, and I call it the ultimate hustle. Pedicab is the ultimate hustle because you really have to hustle. You got to convince people, take a ride on my pedicab. You know, it can be quite challenging. So at the end of the day, we're somewhat weaving with the same thread, you know, because we all understood the bite of the hustle. We all understood what it really meant to work the streets of New York and to do it on a pedicab. So we became family, and we had codes, and we got to know each other, and we also got to know the park rangers and some of the police, you know, around the area. There's a precinct just right around the corner. So we developed a family, pedicab family.
So who was your biggest guest or your biggest passenger?
My biggest passenger,
Big, what I mean, most famous.
yeah, I did take, I remember there was once, well, okay, so there was once when but I didn't take him. He didn't get on my bike, but there was once when I saw Paul Mooney
Okay.
on one of the sides, and I was like, you know, should I ask him? But I remember taking, okay, the actress can't come to my mind. It was an actress, and I didn't recognize who she was. I think she is in the sitcom Sex and the City.
Okay.
And only when I dropped her off, and she said, "Oh, here," and I looked at her, I was like, "Oh, aren't you?" Okay, well, I can't remember her name, but she's one of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, usually in New York City, you know, some jobs people would refer to them as, you know, jobs for people with less education. But you are not. I mean,
Right.
you know, you are educated. So, I mean, would you do it again?
I would definitely do it again, but in a different setting, so to say. Like now, when I think about my novel, which is a lot of it is based on well, the content I was able to derive it from my experience. So, like I said, Gabriel and Naledi are pedicab drivers.
Okay.
I would do it again in a different setting. Whether it's to promote or whatever have you. I don't know if I would do it for a livelihood because, now I'm on to other things. In addition to this, like I said, I do music. I'm also learning to do production. There's so much coming up. But it's something that I would recommend. It's an incredible experience. And this is the way how I see it. I didn't necessarily see it as, oh my gosh, this daunting job. I saw it as this opportunity to experience New York for what it truly is. And a lot of people don't really get that. Like, you can live in the city, but for you to really be able to get the city, is something else. It's a gift. So it's definitely something that I would say, hey, try it out. Like I said, I don't know, maybe once in a while, maybe I'll give you a tour. You know what I mean? I would be more than happy to give you a tour. If somebody calls me like, Ndali, I'm going in Central Park, you want to give me a tour? I mean, why not? We can talk about it.
By the way, did your family back home know what you were doing?
So this is the thing. My dad, who is my hero, my inspiration, he's always about his children making themselves useful to society. So, and that was the term in our house. It's like we were all given tasks and duties to do around the house. And I was very wishy-washy. I wanted to get stuff done. And my dad would come up to me and say, have you completed doing what I told you to do? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm done. He's like, no, there's never a time when you're finished working. When you complete this house, when you improve it, there are a million things that you can do to improve the world. So I grew up with the teaching of make yourself useful. So when I called my dad and they're like, okay, so what are you getting up to? And I said to him, I'm a pedicab driver. And there was silence.
Do they know what pedicab was?
No.
Anyway, no.
In the beginning, they didn't know what it was. And also, I know what my dad was thinking, like, I didn't send you to school to be a cab driver. So he was like, what's that? And I said, well, it's a bicycle with 3 wheels, and people can sit on it. You can drive people around. And it's in India we say a rickshaw. In China they call it a rickshaw. Here we call it a pedicab. And he was quiet for a second again, and he says, "So you're making yourself useful from a bicycle?" And I was like, yeah, I'm giving people a good time. I'm teaching about the history of New York and the park, and it's something to enjoy, and it's paying the bills. But anyways, I had to explain to them what a pedicab is, and I had to explain that we have them in the city, and it's part of the culture of the city, and it's just something that I'm doing that's getting me by. However, I'm learning a lot, and I value what I'm learning.
So pretty much to really summarize it is that, when you are in New York, you can make things happen.
Oh, yes, indeed.
If you have the will.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer of action, whatever it is that you want to do in life. And I know that you have a show that where you speak to the African audience. So whatever it is, whether you're an African or not, it's like if you feel that there's something you want to do, there's something you need to do, there's something that you feel is your responsibility. You can be in New York City, you can do anything. And I'm living proof of that. I didn't see myself moving from pedicabbing to writing and publishing self-help and then novel as well, and doing all these sort of things. But I had a vision, and I'm a creative person. I love to express myself creatively, and indeed the platform is here in the City of Dreams, and with dedication and focus, one is able to make it happen if you want it.
So can you talk to the immigrants who may be going through what you went through, or new immigrants, or even new New Yorkers, or New Yorkers in general, who may find it to be difficult to get a job or
Right.
to pay bills?
Right.
Can you talk to them?
I would say, first of all, it's quite important to allow the natural rhythm of life to take place. Sometimes we have our fixed views of how things should be and how they should look, and if they're not going a certain way, then something is wrong. One of the wake-up calls that I got personally was just, I would say, a defragmentation of what I think ought to be. And it was a struggle, you see, because when you're fighting with something you can't control, it becomes somewhat difficult. But when you let go and you allow life to happen as it should, you allow room for a lot, to be taught to you. With pertaining to your questions, with new people coming into the city, I would say, there's always going to be a challenge. That is the inevitable of life. We're faced with challenges regardless of where you are. The best thing is to know yourself, to know who you are, be it as an African, be it as a native New Yorker, be it as whoever. It's important to know yourself, important to be able to say, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, this is, what makes me, this is what breaks me in a way. So once you have that self-knowledge, the foundation of your self-knowledge, even if it's cultural, especially like African children, where you find that we're raised in a certain way with your culture, your strong, firm background, and then you tend to look at it as, you dismiss it. You see, once you do that to yourself, then you're dismissing a large part of yourself, which makes things somewhat more challenging. So I would say that it's important to know oneself. It's important to understand what it is that you want and what it is that you need to do in order to get that. I know that a lot of people, especially, with immigrants, they face all sorts of challenges, etc. But I would always say, it's not really advisable to play the game, the blame game. It's more beneficial to take a look at your stance and see how you can add on to the greater picture, how you can be useful towards society, how you can contribute, be it through education, be it economic, be it through invention, creation, whatever it is that you can contribute. And that's why I say it's important to know yourself so you can know what you can contribute to the bettering of the society, the new society that you're living in, which you are going to call home.
So, we were introduced to you
Yes.
Through our political endeavors. Can you talk to us about your experience volunteering for our political affairs recently?
Yes, like I said, I love to see where my qualities can be made use of. And so I happen to hear of, the UAC, which is the United African Coalition, which is, based on my knowledge, a strong entity that is focused and dedicated on really being a huge part of the lives of, Africans in New York. And so, yes, I offered to volunteer during a very interesting time where an African candidate was running for City Council, District 16, which for me was a great thing because I'm a person of leadership. I love to see when leadership takes place, especially within the African community that is somewhat not as active. And that is what drew me to, wanting to learn more about how are the African community mobilizing themselves and how are they contributing towards, the bettering of the city. So I took up the position of volunteering, and it was a blessing, to say the least. It was a blessing because I got to understand not only how the city runs from a political standpoint, or let's say from a legislative standpoint, but also I got to meet people who have strong, great desires for the African community. And it's always good to be in a setting where you're able to be part of something that is for the bettering of humanity. At the end of the day, it's what you want to bring to humanity, how you want to contribute positively to humanity. So yes, my experience was incredible, and it's something that I would encourage, especially the youth, to take part